Dear colleagues, we shall continue our working day, and we have on Skype Principal Deputy Chief Monitor Mr. Alexander Hook.
I can hear you well, Juan.
We are ready to listen to your report, please.
Thank you. Dear friends, I'm happy to report that the security situation in the East has improved for the second consecutive week. Last week, we saw a 20% decrease in the number of ceasefire violations compared to the previous week. The decrease in the level of violence, if measured in the terms of Minsk proscribed weapons, namely tanks, mortar, and artillery, has been particularly dramatic. Last week, we recorded 185 explosions caused by tanks, mortars, and artillery. The comparative number for the previous week was 884. That's an 80% decrease. De-escalation is obviously welcome, but it can only and also be deceptive. The de-escalation we are witnessing is comparative. In particular, it compares with the first week of February, when we recorded extraordinarily high numbers of ceasefire violations. This graph that you should be seeing now, outlining ceasefire violation trends over the past 5 weeks, however, perhaps gives us a better perspective. You can see that the level of violence last week does not in fact represent anything unusual. What was unusual was the first week in February. Now we have seen 2 weeks of sustained normal abnormality. A glance at any OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine daily report would confirm this. Take, for instance, what our monitors heard on Friday night last week in Donetsk city center. 90 undetermined explosions. Or from the same location the following night, 127 undetermined explosions. Or what their colleagues in government-controlled Svetlodarsk heard on Saturday, 153 explosions, and nearly 3 hours of continuous overlapping bursts of heavy machine gun fire. This so-called de-escalation or relative calm has extended into this week too. Here's a sample of what our monitors over the past few days have been recording. On Tuesday evening and night, those of them in Svetlodarsk heard 86 undetermined explosions, 5 explosions assessed as automatic grenade launcher fire, 5 explosions assessed as impacts of 82mm mortar rounds, nearly 60 bursts of heavy machine gun, and 50 bursts of small arms fire. On Wednesday afternoon, in just under 2 hours, their colleagues in so-called DPR-controlled Debaltsevo heard 298 undetermined explosions and heavy machine gun fire. Latest preliminary figures from our monitors on the ground point to the same picture. Based in Svetlodarsk, early yesterday morning, they heard over 300 explosions, all within the space of less than 2 hours. Dear friends, these observations underline the defining feature of this conflict, its volatility. It's a cycle of violence unbroken over more than 2.5 years. It's a cycle of violence that continues to this day and will continue so long as weapons remain in place and the sides maintain positions in close proximity to one another. In the face of this violence, I'm happy to see that the sides have recently committed themselves to withdrawing weapons and disengaging. If and when the sides actually withdraw their weapons and disengage, we in the SMM will be there to verify it. And crucially, we will be there to verify that those weapons remain withdrawn and the sides remain disengaged. We will report accordingly, not least so that the people of Svetlodarsk and Debaltsevo and elsewhere along the contact line can finally be reassured that the shells that kill and maim them and destroy their homes will no longer rain down. Dear friends, in order to verify withdrawal and disengagement, we do of course need the baseline information related to the weapons to be withdrawn. We have thus far received some information on weapons that the sides previously withdrew. You would agree with me that weapons that are withdrawn are not the ones the people of Svetlodarsk and Debaltsevo are concerned about. They are concerned about those that are still not withdrawn and are still being used every day, every night. This is still happening as we document it in our daily reports. So right now, we need updated inventories of weapons currently in the security zone, of weapons to be withdrawn. The actual weapons we have seen and heard firing this week, the actual weapons we see every day. Without these updated inventories, the OSCE SMM cannot verify the withdrawal of weapons and the disengagement of the sites. Without these verifications, the process will never gain traction. There must be evidence provided through SMM verification that the other side has withdrawn weapons and disengaged. Otherwise, neither side will continue with withdrawal and disengagement. If there is no proof and no trust, the process will break down. The SMM daily report covering this Tuesday has some telling findings. In government-controlled areas, in violation of the respective withdrawal lines, our monitors observed 9 tanks, and in areas not controlled by the government and in violation of the respective withdrawal lines, our monitors observed 5 tanks. The following day, this Wednesday, we had more of the same. In government-controlled areas, we observed 6 howitzers, and in areas not controlled by the government, 2 tanks and 2 infantry fighting vehicles, each mounted with an anti-tank guided missile. The ceasefire violations we continue to record on a daily basis, and our observations of weapons in the security zone add up to one inescapable conclusion. The sides have not withdrawn their weapons and still use them. Our reports will inform you if the sides have withdrawn their heavy weapons or not. But one thing is clear. So long as the weapons are in place and the sides maintain positions in close proximity, we can expect, and the people living along the contact line can expect, more of the same. The cycle of violence will continue. Dear friends, it gives me no pleasure to point out this self-evident truth. The last thing we want to see is a continuation or even a resumption of more intensified fighting. We in fact want to, and do we want in fact also work towards a greater degree of normalization and stabilization. But it needs to be said, if this conflict is to be resolved, we must face reality. And the reality is that there has been no verified withdrawal of weapons or disengagement. The reality is that the risk factors underpinning violence remain. Dear friends, at the end of the statement, as usual, I would like to inform you about the latest mission numbers. As of today, the mission has 718 monitors, of whom 616 are deployed in the east. In addition, there are 334 Ukrainian colleagues and 91 other international staff working for the SMM. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hook. Колеги, чи є певні запитання до пана Хуга? The question will be in Ukraine.
Two related questions, actually. The first one, yesterday, central head office of the OSCE, that there are some decisions about the expansion capacity of the OSMM, increasing the number of monitors, increase in technical capacity, extended hours for monitoring, extended areas. Can we talk about some concrete things?
Mr. Hook, I'm sorry, we'll repeat the first question once again, okay?
I have no audio here, please.
Запитання полягає в тому, вчора
So I have the following question.
ОБСЄ, центральний
Yesterday-
офіс прийняв сказав, що буде збільшена кількість спостерігачів СММ в Україні.
Yesterday, the OSCE headquarters adopted a decision about the increase of the SMM capacity and the number of monitors.
Посилена їх технічна забезпеченість,
Increased technical capacity,
розширені зони і час спостереження вздовж лінії зіткнень.
extended hours of monitoring along the contact line and expanded areas for monitoring.
Запитання полягає в тому, чи є вже чи можна говорити про конкретний час, коли буде збільшена ця місія, і чи повинна голосуватись за це ще консенсусом країни
And
ОБСЄ?
my question is as follows. Can we say that we have some kind of concrete date from which we could see this increased capacity on the ground, or it still requires a consensus decision to be taken?
Thank you. It is correct that there are plans and suggestions to increase the capacities of the SMM.
Так, у нас є обговорення, ведуться обговорення та є пропозиції стосовно нарощення потенціалу місії.
These discussions are being held at the Permanent Council in Vienna.
І ці обговорення проводяться на рівні постійної ради ОБСЄ у Відні.
And once decisions have been reached in the Permanent Council, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission would be in a position to more define what that in actual terms would mean on the ground in reality.
І як тільки буде прийнято таке рішення на рівні постійної ради у Відні, тоді вже СММ буде уповноважена більш детально опрацьовувати ці питання і яке це матиме реальну реалізацію на місцях.
Це може відбутись в березні, коли переглядатиметься мандат СММ.
When should we expect this decision to be taken? In March, probably, when there would be a discussion about the extension of the SMM mandate.
That is correct. We are looking forward for the Permanent Council to continue their discussions as our mandate expires at the moment at the end of March. Any decision by the Permanent Council, of course, will be duly communicated to the public.
Так, це вірно. Ми з нетерпінням чекаємо, коли продовжиться обговорення на рівні постійної ради ОБСЄ стосовно продовження нашого мандату, тому що, як вам відомо, наш мандат закінчується у кінці березня, і ми чекаємо на рішення, яке має бути прийняте стосовно продовження нашого мандату.
Дякую. З вашого дозволу ще одне запитання.
If you don't mind, one more question to you.
Стосовно перешкод в доступі спостерігачів СММ.
The question is related to the restrictions to the freedom of movement of the OSCE SMM.
Ще наприкінці минулого року в ОБСЄ говорили про недоцільність збільшення кількості спостерігачів в Україні, саме тому, що навіть ті, що є, не можуть отримати доступ до всіх тих місць, де потрібно. Що означає...
At the end of the last year, the OSCE stated that it would be not reasonable to increase the number of monitors because those monitors who are working in the East, they do not have access to all the areas for the monitoring.
Водночас рішення про збільшення кількості все-таки буде прийматися, як ми бачимо, що означає, що знайдено якийсь механізм, щоб не перешкоджали сторони спостерігачам.
As we see, you have plans for the increase in the number of your monitors. Does it mean that you have found some kind of mechanism or arrangement to overcome those restrictions of the freedom of movement?
If you read our reports, you can indeed see that we are still suffering from impediments of our monitoring activities.
Якщо ви поглянете на наші щоденні звіти, ви побачите випадки обмеження свободи пересування наших спостерігачів.
There is a correlation with the intensity of the fighting and the level of restrictions. So whenever there is more fighting, there are more restrictions on us.
І насправді ви можете помітити певну кореляцію між інтенсивністю бойових дій у районах і обмеженням свободи пересування наших спостерігачів у тих районах. Там, де ці бойові дії інтенсивніші, там більше ми стикаємося з випадками обмеження нашої свободи пересування.
And should the sides take further measures to stabilize the ceasefire, including the withdrawal of heavy weapons, that would further allow more access for the monitors by the sides, then permitting more movement to the SMM on either side of the line.
І якщо сторони будуть вживати подальших заходів для стабілізації ситуації, зокрема відведуть важке озброєння, це дозволить нам отримати більший доступ, який буде забезпечений сторонам, і наша свобода пересування збільшиться по обидва боки лінії зіткнення.
We have one more question. It will be in English.
Thank you. Ina Chepugova, UN OCHA. My question is not exactly related to the hostilities because our mandate is a humanitarian one, but I know that OSCE is at least was negotiating about the very poor situation of the pedestrian bridge in Stanitsa Luganska. Could you please just briefly tell us any update on the situation, because we know it's really very, very poor.
Yes, the OSCE. Do you want this translated first, or should I continue?
Ви хочете, щоб я спочатку переклали українською мовою,
No,
чи
please.
я можу продовжити?
Please go on.
The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission's task is to monitor the situation at the bridge in Stanitsa Luhanska, as well as the decision by the sides to disengage from that area. Unfortunately, at the moment, we have seen that no such disengagement has been taking place. In fact, the positions and military hardware, as well as personnel, is positioned very close to one another within that security zone, leading to regular ceasefire violations in the area, where the SMM continues to call upon the sides to implement the decision they have been taken there. It is up to the sides to abide by what they have been agreeing to. We continue to facilitate the dialogue there, and that includes and extends to the discussion as to when preconditions are met to actually repair that bridge, and in this regard we are in contact with other international organizations that may be able to help there. As you know, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission is not a humanitarian mission. We ourselves are not in a position to reconstruct or rebuild. We are there to monitor and providing the information to the sites and the international community to allow then the further easing of the conditions at that bridge. And I was myself there just a week or so ago, and the situation is indeed very dire, and that bridge needs attention and needs to be fixed, without which I'm afraid more people will be suffering in crossing there, or will injure themselves should that temporary bridge there be broken due to its bad shape that it is in now at the moment.
Дякую, пане Хукола. Чи є ще запитання?
Завдання спеціальної моніторингової місії ОБСЄ здійснювати моніторинг, саме, наприклад, рішення стосовно розведення сил і засобів з цих районів, але наразі ми не зафіксували жодного розведення сил і засобів у районі поблизу цього мосту. Навпаки, ми бачили, що сторони розміщували свою техніку, а також розміщували своїх озброєних осіб там, що призводило до збільшення кількості порушення режиму припинення вогню у цьому районі. Ми закликали сторони неодноразово дотримуватися досягнутих домовленостей. Ми присутні там на місцях для того, щоб сприяти налагодженню діалогу. Ми також сприяємо проведенню обговорень щодо можливості проведення ремонтно-відновлювальних робіт. Наскільки вам відомо, ми не є гуманітарною організацією, і ми не маємо відновлювати чи ремонтувати цей міст, але ми знаходимося на постійному зв'язку з іншими міжнародними організаціями, і з допомогою своєї роботи ми якраз освітлюємо інформацію на основі наших спостережень для того, щоб сторони та міжнародна спільнота знали, що відбувається на місцях. Наприклад, минулого тижня я на власні очі бачив, що відбувається у районі поблизу цього мосту. Він дійсно потребує ремонту, тому що якщо не буде відремонтований цей пішохідний міст, ми можемо стати свідками ще більших жертв серед цивільного населення, тому що він знаходиться у критичному стані, дуже небезпечні умови перетину цього мосту для мирного населення.
We don't have further questions, Mr. Hook, so thank you and looking forward to seeing you here next week.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Шановні колеги, наступна подія об 11:00 рівно.